I thought everybody was here for the budget. But that's not. It's an honor to be here with you, Madam Chair, the public, and of course, our thank you today. I'm honored to join you and present my recommended budget for fiscal year 2027. The annual budget process is an opportunity for our citizens to understand priorities, innovate, and respond to new challenges, while also meeting the day-to-day service delivery responsibilities. As City Council well knows, our budget process each year is detailed and intentional, and this year was no different. To develop the budget, we hold discussions with Council about community priorities, hold budget workshops with Council, and host a budget open house with the community. This process allows us to hear directly from City Council and residents on what the most important funding priorities are. As a result of this process, the budget you have before you today strives to balance community impacts, sustainability, and equitable investments in our city. As in previous years, the budget process is centered around ensuring resources are deployed within our pillars for progress: education and youth opportunities, equitable development and business opportunities, housing opportunities for all, healthy and safe neighborhoods, and environment, infrastructure, and resilience. These pillars reflect what we do in the community. These pillars are guided by our 6 principles for accountable and responsive government: in-touch leadership, inclusive governance, innovation, informed decision-making, impactful investments in services, and intentional equity. These principles guide how we govern. Now, last year's budget process emphasized resilience, and for the FY27 budget, we are building on that foundation and strengthening that focus by advancing economic and community resilience. To meet that goal, we prioritize initiatives that invest in long-term resilience for our city and strengthen our capacity to deliver critical city services in an era of environmental challenges. This year, to support that effort, working with Council, we are planning to ask voters to approve a general obligation, or GO bond, to fund approximately $600 million in sewer system upgrades, flooding solutions, and neighborhood resiliency projects. Under our St. Pete Agile Resilience Plan, or SPAR, we fast-tracked the completion of several infrastructure projects. But the resources needed to make a more substantial impact and to meet more of the objectives of the Stormwater Master Plan require a higher level of funding. And we need that funding now in the near term. The proposed bond funding will allow us to move forward more rapidly on the infrastructure improvements that we need to handle the impacts of sea level rise, extreme weather, and flooding without relying exclusively on water and sewer rate increases to fund those projects. While we continue our long-term recovery from the 2024 storms, we are also addressing an ever-broadening scope of community requests, from the arts to housing, homeless and mental health services, transportation, and neighborhood health and safety. There are, as we've said before, unlimited needs and limited resources. Therefore, our decision-making will be strategic, but often difficult. Despite those challenges, we believe this proposed budget continues to support initiatives that strengthen our resiliency, foster innovation, and create opportunity for all who call our city home. The personnel, programs, services, and infrastructure funded in this proposed budget reflect our continued commitment to building a diverse, resilient, and vibrant St. Petersburg. In a few minutes, you'll hear from Budget Director Liz Makowski, who will provide more detailed information on the proposed FY27 budget and the programs it funds. But before Liz begins her presentation, I want to take a moment to recognize Tom, Liz, and the entire budget team. Thank you for your team's work during this year's budget process, all those LIRs. We know it's been a difficult one. Madam Chair and Council, our team is the best of the best. Throughout the budget development process, their skill, commitment, and focus results in a proposed budget that we can all be proud of, reflects our shared priorities, and adheres to the highest professional standards. Whether it's affordable housing investments, youth and education programs, or infrastructure improvements, we can be assured that the city's budget team has thoughtfully and carefully incorporated all of our shared priorities in this proposed budget. The budget is now in City Council's hands, and I look forward to your review. I want to thank City Council for your collective partnership in empowering our St. Pete team to set the standard for public service and deliver services to our community. As always, we are St. Pete. And now I'll turn it over to our queen of quantification, Liz McCoskey. All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Liz.
Good afternoon. All right, so good afternoon, Chair and members of City Council. You just heard some comments from Mayor Welch on the FY27 recommended budget. And in the next few slides, I'll go over in more detail, including some of the major changes since the preliminary budget was presented this past spring. The mayor's recommended budget contains a proposed millage rate for FY27 of 6.4525 mils. And this is the same millage rate as the prior year, FY26. This rate will bring in $243.7 million in ad valorem revenue, which is an increase of 6.47%, or about $14.8 million over the FY26 adopted budget. The recommended general fund operating budget overall increased by $25.4 million, or about 6.17% over last year. As Mayor spoke earlier, last year's budget process emphasized resilience, and for the FY27 budget, we're building on that foundation and strengthening that focus by advancing economic and community resilience as the city continues to recover from this 2024 storms and prepares for current and future pressures on our long-term stability. And as we discussed during earlier budget committees of the whole and the open house, the key areas of investment plan for the FY27 budget are aligned with the mayor's 5 pillars for progress. Under the Education and Youth Opportunities pillar, there is funding to continue programs such as the Mayor's Future Readiness Academy, our year-round youth employment programs, our youth development grants, the Genius Lab, Boys and Girls Club Prosperity Pathway, and various literacy and STEAM programs. Under the Equitable Development Arts and Business Opportunities pillar, we look to fund the continuation of our many economic and workforce development and our art programs. Included in this is the city's arts grant program, our individual artist grants, arts micro grants, small business grants and programs, the Target Industry Economic and Workforce Development Incentives Program. Under our Neighborhood Health and Safety for All pillar, we're continuing to fund neighborhood and public safety programs like the CALL program, our community impact grants, neighborhood partnership grants, and the Healthy Neighborhood Store program. For the Housing Opportunities for All pillar, there will be funding to continue our progress on the 10-year Housing Opportunity for All agenda and provide resources for our social service programs. And in the Economic Infrastructure and Resiliency pillar, the preliminary budget will have funding for our programs that protect our environment, increase our resilience, and improve our city's infrastructure, including the St. Pete Agile Resilience or SPAR program. Some key investments on the capital improvement budget side are under water and stormwater infrastructure, again, including planning for the St. Pete Agile Resilience SPAR program, funding for affordable housing land acquisitions, funding for Complete Streets, which was increased by $400,000 in FY27 over FY26, our street and road improvements project, which was also increased by $1.55 million, police K-9 compound and fire training facility assignments, multimodal transportation and bike and pedestrian safety improvement projects, bridges, seawalls, sidewalks, funding for our rec centers, parks, and library improvements, funding for city facility renovations and improvements, and funding for neighborhood partnership grants and enhancements. Some major changes in the FY27 general fund budget since the preliminary budget include an increase in the grants and aid amount in the City Development Administration Department by $62,000, and this is to restore the funding for arts and events programming to the FY26 funding levels. There's also an increase in the transfer of the General Capital Improvement Fund by $3.28 million to accelerate the funding timeline for the K-9 and fire training facility projects. There's a reduction in revenues in the Parks and Recreation Department due to the removal of the proposed child care fee increase that was included in the preliminary budget. There's also an increase in contingency of $186,000, and then we also add an additional $452,000 in contingency to hold funding for projected fuel increases for our general fund departments. And there's also a true up of the salary and benefits budget in the Housing and Community Development Department by $254,000 due to revised estimates between the general fund and our various grant funds. In this next section, I'll give a quick overview using tables and charts and graphs to illustrate this city's FY27 recommended budget. These tables are also included in the FY27 recommended budget book in the executive summary, which has been posted on the city's website. The total FY27 recommended operating budget revenue for the city is $1.05 billion. Charges for services make up the largest revenue category at $452.8 million, or 43.1%, followed by taxes at $322.9 million, or 30.8%. On the expenditure side, the FY27 recommended operating budget is $1.023 billion and is about 4.8% higher than the FY26 adopted budget. The Public Works Administration which includes the enterprise funds of water resources and stormwater, is about 32% of the total operating budget at $327.7 million. Next is the Public Safety Administration, which includes police and fire rescue departments, and that accounts for about 26.2% of our total operating budget, or $268.4 million. This next slide shows the total general fund revenue budget for FY27. A total is $437.325 million. And general fund revenue comes from various sources as illustrated on this chart. The largest single source of revenue are taxes, which include the ad valorem taxes, and is at 73.8%, or $322.9 million. The next category is pilot and G&A at 9.7%, or $42.461 million, followed by intergovernmental revenue at 9.49%, or $41.5 million. Looking at the total general fund expenditure budget, it is also $437.325 million, and the city's general fund is categorized into 6 administrations. The single largest general fund investment made by the cities in public safety, which is about 55% of the general fund budget and includes our police and fire rescue departments. The general government administration makes up the next largest category at 18.99% and includes departments such as budget, finance, legal, and human resources. And the third largest general fund investment is in community enrichment administration at 16.3% and includes our parks and recreation department and the libraries. This shows the general fund budget by expenditure type, and the single largest expenditure category in the general fund is salaries and wages at $202.7 million, or about 46.3% of the total general fund budget. The second biggest category is benefits, which is $96.9 million, or 22.1%. And if you combine salaries and benefits together, it makes up 68.5% of the total general fund budget. The FY27 capital improvement program budget includes $196.061 million in projects. Water resources projects account for 57.1% of the CIP program, followed by stormwater at 19% and penny funded projects at 17.4%. This is the CIP program plan for over 5 years, which is about $1.181 billion. And then we'll include in closing, our first public budget hearing will be held on September 3rd at 6 p.m. And our final public budget hearing will be on September 17th, also at 6 p.m. And they'll be held here at City Hall and Council Chambers. Information on the mayor's recommended budget is available on the city's website. And we also will have a committee of the whole in 2 weeks on the recommended budget with City Council. And I also like to thank my budget team and all the city employees who help work on the budget year round and make the budget what it is today. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom or Liz, if you can just tell us, just because we're having conversations on real estate property taxes, When we covered taxes, there's a $322 million amount, but the property taxes is a portion of that. Could you just give that for the record to be clear? Because I know people are attuned to this right now, and I just want to make sure that we kind of touch upon that.
So for FY27, the ad valorem revenue is 243.7 million.
Which is ad valorem is the real estate property
Yes, correct.
taxes for the layperson out there. Okay, and then in terms of when we're talking about a operating budget of 1.05 billion, all that is not general fund monies. Just in the simplest of terms, if somebody's watching this, if you can explain just those separate buckets of where those revenues, how it works.
Okay, so that's our entire city budget. So it's going to include our enterprise funds, such as water resources, stormwater, sanitation.
Right.
It also includes our internal service funds, like our fleet department and our Department of Technology Services, which charges our departments for use of vehicles or technology. And there's also some special revenue funds in there as well. So there's a bunch of different buckets, but that's every fund in the city's budget is combined. The general fund is a portion of that.
Right. And the reason I want to point that out, I just want to also make sure, because I've had this question asked in neighborhood meetings is, well, it's a $1 billion budget, but those are not monies that you can just use for anything. Correct.
A lot of them are charges for services. So it's a fee that's covering that specific service or utility funding. Your water bill can only be used for water type expenditures. It can't be used on police or fire.
Right. So there is a difference between a portion of money that is in that budget that cannot be used for general purposes, and there's monies that are in there that have to be used for certain things, and you cannot move those around.
That's correct.
Okay. And then when you talk about our operating budget in terms of the general fund, what are we looking at when you're looking at that portion alone
So
for revenues?
Of that 1.05 billion, the revenue is 437.325 million.
Right. So
of that ad valorem revenue, our fiscal policies only allow us to spend it on police or public safety.
Right. That's exactly why I wanted you to kind of just cover it again. I know you covered it, but it's a lot of numbers on the screen, and I just wanted to make sure that we explained it because it could be complicated. Okay, great. Thank you. Well, I don't see any other comments. I know that this is going to go before committee of the whole. Council. Before I get to Councilmember Givens, there's going to be a committee of the whole on July 30th at 9 a.m. on this FY 2027 recommended budget, where we're going to have an opportunity to discuss the budget with administration. I also would note for council members who may have specific questions they want administration to respond to at that meeting, you may want to have those meetings beforehand as opposed to just bringing them up at the meeting, so the appropriate parties could be there with the information so they could be answered, and that usually tends to be more fruitful. With that being said, Councilmember Givens.
Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you so much to the administration, especially you, Tom, and you, Queen Liz, for all of your hard work. Can you speak a little bit, Tom or Liz, to this budget gap that we had? Have we closed that gap now?
Yes. So right now, if you look at the slides, there's revenue of 437 million and expenditures of 437 million. So by the time we put the recommended budget out, we have to have a balanced budget.
Awesome. And then my last question is regarding revenue. So we had talked about increases on rent at the Jamestown apartments. Did we come to a final decision on that, or is that something that the administration is still discussing?
I think Mr. Corbett and his team are still working through those, but we can certainly have that answer at the July 30th council member.
I appreciate that. And then my last question is salary and benefits. We talked about that accounting for the largest portion of our expenditures. Are we still having those conversations about which positions we may want to consolidate, what roles may be up for early retirement? I'm guessing those conversations are still being had. Is that correct?
Well, positions are always under consideration throughout the year, but what the budget you have before you, we have resolved and reconciled all the positions that we're recommending for FY27. But as the future holds, if there are changes in the ad valorem, certainly we would have to reevaluate staffing levels at some point.
And I believe I had heard there was a hiring freeze. Is that freeze still in place, or have we looked at that?
We are evaluating every open position on an ongoing basis. There is not a freeze, but we are taking a look at each position as they become open to see if it is something we want to continue to fund, and we are. And most of the positions are continuing, yes.
I appreciate that, Tom. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And for those that are watching, Councilmember Givens brought up the fact that sometimes you do start, and normally we do start with a budget gap, and that budget gap, they work on closing that budget gap, the team, Liz and Tom and their team, and then they have to end up with a balanced budget, which is what we have now before us. And there will be a continued discussion for those that are interested in the budget and what's happening. Again, on July 30th, it will be a committee of the whole. It won't be here in chambers. It will be downstairs in room 100 at 9 a.m. Okay. Councilmember Gabbard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just something that you mentioned, and I wanted to ask administration, it is always good, I think, sometimes for us to have conversations ahead of our committee of the whole. And I was just curious if administration is entertaining those meetings with City Council.
So I know that typically we have scheduled meetings in August to review any last items with council members and to review kind of what you said in January and what we've been able to address in the context of the proposed budget. Now, I know the timing is different, right? With this coming up soon, we can certainly have, conversations to the extent that your calendar permits and our calendars permit prior to the July 30th meeting.
Thank you. I will take you up on that. So you'll look to get a request from my office. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, given the fact that we have a committee of the whole, and I assume at that meeting there will be questions about different budget items. If there are any questions, whether there is the answer someone wants to hear or doesn't want to hear, it's okay for people to have those conversations. And that it'll probably provide for a more efficient meeting. Okay. I think that brings us to the end of our report. Thank you, Mayor. And absolutely. And thank you, Tom. And thank you, Liz, for your presentation. And we will continue the conversation at the committee of the whole. And then we have lots of time to review the big book, the budget book. So, okay. Next up, we have G1, referral to HLUT, and it's Councilmember Gertis's item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Respectfully requesting a referral to the Housing, Land Use, and Transportation Committee for a discussion on the creation of a trail-oriented development overlay. And just more specifically, this is very specific to the portion of the trail in between 23rd Street and 34th Street. And just looking at opportunities this might be able to create. And I would move approval.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Gabbard.
I just very quickly want to say thank you, Councilmember Gertis, for putting this forward. And the timing of doing so is perfect because as many times when we live in the sunshine, we never know what somebody else is interested in having a conversation on. And I had some stakeholder meetings and was potentially looking at putting something forward, right? But then again, with only having 5 months left on city council, I'm kind of at that place where I'm like, well, anything that I put forward may potentially get, inherited by a council member next year. So I was kind of waiting. So when I saw you put this on adds and deletes last week, I was really happy. So thank you for doing that. And if the conversation is able to happen soon, I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Floyd.
Ditto everything Councilmember Gabbard just said. Was talking to stakeholders, was interested in coming up with something. Ditto everything except I'm going to be here for a few more years bothering y'all. So I'm looking forward to the conversation. So thank you for putting in the new business item.
Thank you. Councilmember Curtis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you to you both for the comments. Happy to do it. I know I had a previous item about the trail and I wanted to be very specific with this one. And so that had a lot of, I think, general conversations about the trail, including ownership of different portions of it. And so for expediency, I wanted to be very specific of having 2 routes because I didn't want that one to get caught up in all of the other stuff I think we're going to talk about. This one is very specific to a very specific portion of the trail that I hope we can move relatively quickly. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Clerk, if you can open the machine for voting. Council members, please enter your votes. Seeing that all present council members have voted, clerk, please tally and announce the vote.
Madam Chair, motion to approve agenda item G1 passes unanimously with Councilmember Driscoll being absent.
Thank you. Now we move on to open forum. Any speakers?
None assumed.
Not on Zoom either? Okay, great. We close open forum and we move to announcements. Any announcements? Councilmember Curtis and then Councilmember Fig Sanders.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just wanted to be said out loud, and if I had to guess, she's watching that Councilmember Driscoll is in the Gertis's prayer. So thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Fig Sanders.
Thank you. I just kind of wanted to acknowledge the fact that I don't know if you all know Delquanda Turner, but she and myself have started a social services, wraparound services collaborative. We did it many, many years ago, and we've restarted it. And our next meeting is going to be on August 12th. So please look for the information. And I think I probably need to have it noticed because we really want to have Councilmember Gertis come and speak, but we're going to have to, the subject of it is how the legislation is going to impact you. And since it's so impactful for our social services agencies, it's going to be August 12th at the Presidential Barack Obama Library from 11 to 1. So I'll make sure we get the flyer out. And then another point of good news, as you all know, I was the interim of Continuum of Care. I was voted as the chair on Friday of Continuum of Care. Yay! So I just wanted to put that out there, but thank you, Chair.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am.
Councilmember Gertis, thank you for mentioning Councilmember Driscoll and that she's in your prayers. I mentioned it briefly at the beginning of the meeting, but I just want
Thank you.
Well, and I want everyone here to know, I didn't say it earlier, but there is a good likelihood that she probably won't be here next week. And so it's an ongoing medical issue. So I just wanted to say that to you all and for you all to be aware of that. Okay, with that being said, I really appreciate everyone's work today. Thank you so much. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.